And later on, I joined a club called Forum, which was an all-male club. And I can honestly say things weren't always nice there. It's a very, very rigorous environment. Like there could be berating. You could have certain nights where you don't feel good about yourself. But I think they built me up in the sense that I think they made me the best that I could possibly be.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to another intriguing episode of Beyond the Podium, a Toastmasters District 74 podcast hosted by myself, Kofi Simpson. I am currently the president of Fifth Dimension Toastmasters, and I guess say that my title has just surpassed. I was just a divisional champion for District 129 within the international speaking competition, Toastmasters and Table Topics. And now I have been blessed with the opportunity of interviewing amazing Toastmasters doing amazing things. But before we get into this Toastmasters session today, please click and subscribe, the subscribe button. This podcast, Beyond the Podium, is a Toastmasters podcast initiative that is displaying unique talents and experiences of different Toastmasters within the District 74 region. Today, I have the honor and privilege of interviewing Michael SHACKLETON. Michael, welcome to the episode of Beyond the Podium.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
Today, we're going to have a very intriguing session on something that's a bit different and unique, and maybe some of us have never really struggled with it. We're going to talk about stuttering. And we have Michael, who's going to talk about his Toastmasters journey and the different components. And the stuttering aspect for me is something different and unique. I remember as a kid, I grew up with a friend who stuttered. And sometimes I just wonder how the evolution, the mind goes through, and how people actually overcome the stuttering aspect of things. So let's just dive straight into it, Michael. Normally, I like to ask my guests to introduce themselves. I feel that they will do a lot more justice than myself. Let's start to get to know who Michael SHACKLETON is.
Thank you very much for having me. And again, a warm welcome to everyone. I'm also not sure where to start. So when I give speeches, I say I am a DTM. It doesn't stand for Distinguished Toastmaster. It stands for Don't Time Me. But I've done a number of things, and I think my stuttering journey interlinks strongly with certain points in my career, in my studies, and so on. But Toastmasters has had a major impact on my life, to the point I think I can never leave Toastmasters. But I suppose briefly, I became an attorney in February 2014. I became a city councillor in Pretoria in March 2014. I went to Parliament for 2018 and 2019. I was a member of the Gauteng Legislature from 2019 to 2022. That was all in the Democratic Alliance. I then became Action SA's legal counsel. Then I ran Rise Mzansi's election campaign for Pretoria for the last national elections. And then I worked in the office of the MEC for Agriculture and Rural Development for Yiswa Ramagopa, who was the Rise Mzansi national chairperson. And now I'm the legal executive of the National Horse Racing Authority, which regulates horse racing in South Africa and also Zimbabwe. And I have a master's degree in constitutional and administrative law.
Great, interesting journey. One of the things that I love about the Toastmasters aspect of things is that there are certain, I don't want to say well-known people, but I think I love the intellectual aspect of things. People doing things in corporate and a part of the Toastmasters journey. And it always makes me wonder, what is it about this Toastmasters platform that people, one, understand we all come for different reasons. And for me, the most important thing is the staying and the growing aspect of things. So first of all, I must compliment you on your academic accolades. and the work that you've done, particularly within the political space. Very interesting. You're probably one of the first, I don't want to say politicians, but someone in the political landscape that I'm actually going to interact with. And for me, that's something very, very exciting, trying to kind of understand how that journey goes specifically. So now we've understood you from a career perspective, right? And understanding the different points from a career perspective. Now, I just want to understand, or want to know more about who Michael is within the Toastmasters sphere, your journey, your entry in Toastmasters. What roles have you done? What clubs have you been part of specifically?
Okay, thank you. I think understanding my journey in Toastmasters won't be complete without mentioning maybe some personal struggles in my life and people that I've met that have been very important on my Toastmasters journey. So I joined the Democratic Alliance in 2008 in university, and in 2010 I got into the Student Representative Council at University of Pretoria, and in that year I was also the head of the students' organization on campus.
Okay. So wait, you're the head of SRC?
No, the head of the DA Students Organization, but I was the member for safety, security, and facilities, because I actually got elected for societies, and then they said that that's a conflict of interest because I was head of a society.
Okay.
Anyway, so in 2011, it was the local government elections for Pretoria, and I lost out by 2 seats on becoming a city councillor.
Okay.
So to take a few steps back, and there is some relevance, and this is how I got into Toastmasters. By the way, they taught us in politics, they can ask you any question, and you can answer it any way you want. They can ask you about a dog, you start talking about a cat. Ask you about next year, you start talking about last year. You can do anything you want. But in any case, there is some relevance to that. So my father died of cancer just before I started high school, without a cent to his name, because he was battling a disease. And my mother died in my first year of university, 2 weeks before I started my first year June exams from heart failure, also without a cent to her name. So when my mother passed away, this left me parentless. This was 2007. I was so uncertain about my future, and I didn't know what would happen to me. But I was working in exclusive books at night in Brooklyn Mall, that I did develop a stutter. And it was quite serious, and I remember especially, it made me, very self-conscious, but I think, because I really wasn't sure what would happen to me in my life. And losing out by 2 seats in 2011, despite, being, qualified, having been on SRC, all these things, I was approached by the then DA's candidate for mayor, who had just lost out on being mayor himself, who told me about Toastmasters. His name is Brandon Topham, and he had been a division director in Toastmasters. And I didn't really know about Toastmasters before. And he's I think, you can say people are ruthless in corporate. This person's CV is immense. It's ridiculous. He's an attorney, internal auditor, chartered accountant. He's been on at least 12 company boards. He actually started One-Time Airlines. But this person, Brandon Topham, paid for my first membership to Toastmasters. He started a club in Sunnyside in Pretoria called Open Society.
Okay.
And there, is your icebreaker, and I mentioned things about my personal challenges and so on and so forth. And later on, I joined a club called Forum, which was an all-male club. And I can honestly say things weren't always nice there. You can talk to a person called Sean Wilkinson. We both agree it's not always nice there. I would say, so it's led by this group called the so-called Buffaloes, what they call themselves, and they were there since the 1970s. Now, I say it's not always nice there because it's a very, very rigorous environment. You were trained by the likes of Ian Flint. It's a former district director himself. And there was Will Bowker and a guy called Peter Miller, who's a city councillor, that also got me to join that club. But they were very, very rigorous. Very much so. Like they would, they could be berating. You could have certain nights where you don't feel good about yourself. But I think they really, so built me up in the sense that I think they made me the best that I could possibly be. So in 2014, I did become a DA councillor because somebody had joined the ANC and I was then next on the list. But in 2016, from having been in the Toastmasters environment and bringing, building up my speaking and so on, I was first in their entire selection process. First. So I missed out by 2 seats. In 2011, I was first in the whole selection process in 2016. And I subsequently, I got my master's in 2018, and I went to Parliament in 2018 and 2019. And then I was the only person safe on both lists for the DA in the whole of Gauteng, including even the provincial leader himself, that I could choose between Parliament and the Legislature. So let's see. So there was also a club called Accenture I was part of. A lot of this journey isn't possible without mentioning Brighton Masie and Andrew Turo. So Brighton, I was an area director in the COVID year when Brighton was a member of a place called Waterfall Storymasters.
Okay.
And I could already see this was a really incredible human being. I remember being late for this online meeting, and he basically handled this meeting himself that I was supposed to handle, and he was relatively new to the whole session. But I remember something with him with Waterfall Storymasters, Kiyamo Moli Balwa. Hopefully many of you know Kiyamo. Every time I talk about Toastmasters, I have to praise Kiyamo till the end of the world. Okay. So she's been finance manager for the whole district. She won area director of the year when it was Southern Africa, District 74 and 129 combined. And in the next year, she won division director for Southern Africa as well. She found a sort of loophole in the rules to allow Waterfall Storymasters, this infant club that had just been formed, to have a club contest. Okay. But she only found this loophole for me like late on in this process. So I then, having been a Toastmaster since 2011, this was the COVID year, I then got all my connections together.
2020.
Yeah.
COVID was 2020. Yeah. 2020.
Yeah. So I just used all my connections. So what we did is the club contest, we had just distinguished Toastmasters for every role. Whether you're a timekeeper, whether you're an evaluator, whether you're sergeant at arms, every single person was some sort of DTM from somewhere across the entire district. And I actually won area director of the year for that year, and I was a division director subsequently. Yeah, I wanted to mention 2 things about my DTM journey. Okay. So the other evening, there was a lady in Green Speakers that had a meeting with me specifically about how she can become a distinguished Toastmaster. And I said, it's fine, it's actually 3 things. That with my DTM journey, right, I had never wanted to be a DTM. I think it is true what they say, that the people around you, they, basically build you up, and you are sort of the sum of the people that you spend most of your time with. So get this. When I became club president of Forum, I got this email, right? And it's like cabinet posts, right? Now, I didn't know cabinet's like a high up thing. Got this email, and having been a student of the law, I'm like, okay, what can I apply for here? And I was like, oh, look, admin manager. Because it turns out, that according to these bylaws, if you have been president of a club, you can be admin manager of the entire district. So I became admin manager, and then I was like, oh, this thing is like the whole of Southern Africa. Okay. So then later on, then I went down to being an area director, and then I went to be a division director. And now I'm some kind of coordinator every year. So now I'm the CFR champion for District 74, which are also, very linked to my personal values of rewarding people, making them feel seen and heard. But the point of the story is that when I was on cabinet, there were these people all around me that either were DTMs or they were on their way to be DTM. So they encouraged me. And then this gentleman, Sean Wilkinson, who's a city councillor in Pretoria, he was in Forum. He actually challenged me. He was an area director at the time as to who could become a DTM first. So there was a club at USA, Toastmasters. Okay. He got me to speak there and so on and so forth. And, Toastmaster can also evaluate another one. Yeah. So when I gave a speech at a youth leadership program, he also evaluated me, et cetera, et cetera. But I wanted to say something that also really helped me. And that's why it's good that we have networks. Like, I can start saying names now in Toastmasters. And like, these people are.
So, Michael, I'm going to bring it and hone in now just for us to... Thanks. Move past this aspect of things, right? Okay. So my apologies for mentioning the DTM aspect of things. So I just want to summarize what I've heard so far. You started your Toastmasters journey initially from a stuttering perspective. Someone sponsored you, and you've obviously been through different clubs, right? From a role perspective, you've served as president of how many clubs have you been president of?
My story isn't complete without just mentioning Midrand Groundbreakers, that Andrew Turo approached me to sponsor this club with him. Okay. And then Kiyamo was the inaugural president, and I've stayed very connected to that for the longest of time. I've been VPE quite a couple of times, but I was definitely president of Forum.
Okay, cool.
And Accenture. Also on Groundbreaker of the Year. There was a nice award when I became DTM there as well, and I gave them my DTM. I was treasurer at Open Society in the beginning.
Okay.
I think there's always one that I never...
I think that, okay.
Yeah, but all of those. There's a secretary I did at Forum.
And you've been part of the district council, right? Which year were you part of district council?
I speak under correction, but it might have been around 2016, 2017.
Okay. And who was the district lead at that
Sandra
point?
Cooper, and then Paul Tanton was the... I'll call him IPP.
I can see that you've had a rich experience from an EXCO perspective, and you've networked through Toastmasters, right? And I think for me, that is the key thing that I was very excited for us to have this conversation, because you've been around the block from a Toastmasters perspective. But I just want to go talk about that little stuttering aspect of things, right? And that journey, and we'll come back to the Toastmasters journey. So from what you're saying, I'm assuming that when you were in high school, you did not stutter. It became an after event in life that when you started stuttering, right? Okay. And then other than Toastmasters, what other assistance or aids did you take to help you with the stuttering?
So I also downloaded a number of online books, PDFs. So there are things I think about every day, and I even saw this last night. But what's interesting is a number of people say that they don't pick up a stutter. So I know when I'm about to stutter. So if I know I'm about to stutter, I try to change the word to make it a different word. And people don't see what's going on in my mind, obviously.
Okay.
But what I know from these books, if I'm going to start whispering to you now, the odds of me stuttering, it's probably guaranteed. But the louder you talk, something happens with the way that your breathing modulates. So say I could give a speech to 5,000 people, and they probably won't notice that I stutter.
Okay.
But if I talk to those people one-on-one, they probably would pick up that I stutter. So I think Toastmasters made me the best person that I can be. But I also joined organizations like there's something called Junior Chamber International.
Okay.
Me and Andrew Tura also won awards from those places. Which it's an international young professionals organization designed to give you a global network. So I think also by throwing myself into things, but I think that's also what Toastmasters is really about. It's about like it's almost like throwing yourself into a swimming pool when you're not able to swim.
Okay,
it's kind of you have to survive, and you become used to this thing over time. But I think with both of my parents having passed on without a cent to their names, I think there is an element of survival.
Okay.
In like a survival mode in one's brain where you are pushed kind of that you have to succeed.
So condolences obviously on your parents, and thank you very much for sharing. I just want to understand before we get back into the Toastmasters aspect of things is how did you actually manage to, because you're talking about no cent to their name, how did you manage to survive vastly from a financial perspective?
So I did work in exclusive books at night, but thankfully my father's parents, who have also since passed on, they were still alive at that time. They paid for my LLB studies at the University of Pretoria, and then I used a credit card to pay for my masters. But definitely without my grandparents, I think I would never have had any university degree, and I think I really have to thank them for the rest of my life, and may their souls rest in peace.
Cool. Thank you very much for sharing that, Michael. It must have been a very tough journey, but I think people say that challenges make us stronger, and it seemed like you navigated through that exceptionally well, and you are doing exceptional things. So we obviously speaking from a stuttering perspective. So you tried different things. You came to Toastmasters, and having the ability to engage in front of people and manage your nerves, did that assist you in overcoming the stuttering that you? Do you feel that was the journey that Toastmasters helped before we even get into the leadership thing and those kind of things?
Yes, definitely. So what I found, and you'll find, and I'm sure someone's going to wipe the sweat off their brow and shake their head and sigh. You'll find those of us with the legacy DTM will be like, look, man, like this thing was much harder. Okay, and we did a lot more things. Okay, and your pathways DTM, it's like not a lot of things. Okay, so that's what we're going to say. Okay, but in the legacy DTM, right, we had these competent communicator it was like hard copy manuals, and the competent leadership manuals. So I remember speaking at Forum and realizing, when I was getting my DTM, what this was doing for me. So it made me comfortable in any type of situation, although it wasn't a real situation. It was like a role play. But it made me feel comfortable. So there was a speech. It was as though I was talking to the entire U.S. Senate. Okay. And there was a speech as though I was talking on radio. Okay. And there was a speech as though I was representing an international company after laying off workers and the future strategy and direction and mission. I think just Toastmasters putting me into those situations mentally. Okay. It's prepared me to face those situations in real life. There's actually a book called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. They actually said that there were basketball players, and they had one group literally shooting the balls into the hoop, and they had another group visualizing the success of getting the balls into the hoop. And actually the ones that visualized, they had a higher success rate. So I'm not saying if you're a basketball player, don't shoot the balls into the hoop, because maybe your muscles will die or something, but you get the point that I think there's a strong aspect of what happens mentally.
So just touching, you saying that the legacy program structure and the current program structure is a bit different, right?
So I'm not sure to what extent, but it just seems like you do less. Like it's more lenient.
And what you're saying, for me, like, I'm just excited. I like those different aspects, right? And if I'm honest, one of the parts that for me I struggle from a Toastmasters perspective is the speech writing. And as I went through the different pathways, I know, man, you can do a podcast, you can interview, you can have a presentation or panel discussion in the different ways. And for me, my journey has been, let me try find different ways, because we're all not speechwriters. and for me, having to write a speech is what limits me. What I enjoy is this kind of stuff, and there are different ways in developing the communication skill other than the speech writing aspect of things. So for me, my members, I'm always encouraging people to think differently, to find different ways of communicating and learning how to express themselves. So I really like that highlight. So I want that book just to, to go back and see what I can do to diversify my Toastmasters journey. And
what I found as well during my DTM, right? Nobody knows you didn't write a speech. Nobody knows. So you can refine that skill. You can
refine that.
So you can essentially you can do 5 to 10 speeches in a row. That's essentially table topics that nobody's going to know, as long as those speeches are good.
Thanks for sharing. Now I want to go into Toastmasters and politics, right? My question is, do you find a lot of politicians have gone through Toastmasters at some point in their journey?
I find some. So I'll even give you examples. There's Sean Wilkinson that I keep talking about, because he was the one that challenged me to get my DTM. Okay. He's the ward councillor for Groenkloof. Peter Miller is also a city councillor in Pretoria. And then there was Brandon Topham, who also, after being a councillor, was a candidate for mayor and went to Parliament. So those to me are the most obvious ones. So I won't say it's many, many people. Okay. I think there was one city councillor in Johannesburg. And there was a lady, Lucinda Harmon, who also, she became a city councillor. She was a division director as well. But was also part of that PSA SA that I saw you, Kofi. Guys, Kofi, like subtly brag. He sends us his videos. He's like, I was talking here. Yeah, so I don't think it's a lot of politicians that have been in it. Okay. But I think it helps politicians in 2 ways: to refine the way that you speak, but also in terms of networking and getting to know people. But I think, as you can see, the way that most politicians speak, I think it's not the best.
And why I'm asking that, apart from the Toastmasters thing, I'm trying to understand from a parliamentary perspective. Just out of the top of my head, curiosity is, how are they taught how to speak and engage? Is there, I think you spoke about obviously how they answer questions, or what you've been obviously told, but is there a systematic way around that specifically? I'm just curious, how does Julius Malema become the speaker that he is, and the comfortability in terms of how he speaks?
I don't think that there really is any kind of actual training. So when I was in the DA, I was asked to give public speaking training to public reps across the province, which I gave. But that was because of my Toastmasters experience, and Peter Miller and I gave it together because he was part of Toastmasters. So they did try something to upskill people. Obviously, I have a lot of friends in politics around the country. There are people that are very qualified. There are people that do deserve to be there. And you know who you are, and we respect each other. Okay, but there's also in politics there's quite a big system of, I'd say, having the right friends within political parties, and you climb the ranks. Let's say a person becomes an MEC or a minister of agriculture, transport, but health. I think at least we put they put doctors there sometimes, at least most of the time these days. But there's whatever it is. Let's say you could be Minister of Agriculture, but you have no agriculture background, and you just have to rely on staff kind of telling you what to do, and so on and so forth. But I don't think there really is kind of a public speaking training or for MPs. So when you go into Parliament, Legislature, Council, you do go through a rigorous training for about 2 weeks, but it's really about the rules
of Parliament,
and how these things, how you can raise motions and et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's why it does help if you went to university, because often these people, they were debating in societies and debating in public forums and that type of thing. Okay, interesting to see. I mean, of synergy. And just one interesting fact now that you're going to highlight in terms of speech writing, right? I'm assuming when the president speaks, someone has written that speech. Definitely. So there's a certain level where a lot of stuff that is communicated, there's been research and someone has written. So for example, let's say, so when the mayor speaks, that's the mayor speaking, and it's not something that's written. And as you go up... No, that's a speechwriter.
That's a speechwriter.
I can even tell you, the speechwriter for Pretoria is David Kabwa. And then the mayor's in a CPM. So even the members of the mayoral committee, they have speechwriters. So I would say if you have some kind of executive capacity, so like an MEC is a provincial minister ultimately. They have researchers and strategists and speechwriters and so on.
For me, the way I see Toastmasters is that we are very diverse, right? Obviously, there's a leadership aspect. There are people that are great at writing speeches. There are people that are great at delivering speeches. People that are great at debating. People that are great at panel discussions, So I'm just trying to highlight, I think that maybe that's an untapped aspect of communication that we don't communicate, is that from a Toastmasters perspective, if you're very good at writing speeches, that's a career you can create.
Definitely.
And I'm actually wonder how many Toastmasters have actually pivoted their career into writing speeches. Because for me, a lot of the people, and I think this discussion of ours is probably a bit more different to some of the people that I've had on the podcast, and the majority of people that I've had on the podcast are more about monetizing the voice and the speaking. But there's someone behind closed doors that also assists with that. And I feel that, we've got to be able to punt the different ways that you're able to leverage over the Toastmasters aspect of things. But you mentioned voluntary organization just now. And obviously you work from a corporate, or I don't want to say corporate, but from a work perspective, and there's a voluntary aspect. And you've been in leadership in both spheres, right? For you, in your experience, what are the differences and similarities of the two different worlds?
Let's take Toastmasters as maybe the primary example. I find Toastmasters is underpinned by specific values: integrity, respect, service, excellence. And maybe what's amazing is, I think when all of us join Toastmasters, we just think, look, I'm going to improve my public speaking. Someone's going to improve me somehow. And as the years go by, we end up improving others. That's actually what happens. We end up mentoring and coaching others. We end up inspiring other people. But somehow this whole ethos around us of these 4 values, integrity, respect, service, excellence, it really shows up in the way we talk to everybody. If a Toastmasters person asks me now, what can you be available for 1, 2, 3? I'll always try my absolute best to be available. And if I'm not, I will explain in, the calmest, most clear way, that really I want to do this, but I can't because of 1, 2, 3, but I'll be available in future for you, and they will understand, and so on. So I find in corporate, there's very much a system of I will fire you. You can receive threats on maybe a weekly or daily basis. You're either going to be fired, you're going to be suspended. Whereas Toastmasters to me creates a 1 year to lead system that's ultimately safe. But I don't just mean Toastmasters, but I think, but I think here, yeah. So, but let's say in Toastmasters, you can go from maybe a secretary, you become a club president eventually, but you learn skills that are actually relatable to working life. And some people will be very scared, by the way, to take up these roles because they don't know a thing about public relations or marketing or networking, whatever it is. But we create a safe space for them where it isn't, I will fire you. It's, let me help you, let me meet with you. You can reach out. I was asked this week, and this is, I like to brag about some things. For some reason, it was like really, really special for me that I won Area Director of the Year for Southern Africa in the Toastmasters year. And one of the things I did is I attended all the meetings of all my clubs, all of them. And why? Because it was COVID. So you can, man. You just come on. So I thought, I'm going to create history this way. And I've seen even where I work now that, people do call me even from around the country and, praise me for the way that they feel treated and seen and heard by me, maybe in comparison to other people that they report to as well.
Okay. And not using power, but persuading. And I mean, for me, it's very interesting. Just as a club president, I'm like, I must be motivating people who came here for A, B, C, and D. But for me, for the club to work and for everything to be successful, I need to learn how to mentor, inspire people. So it's very interesting. Yeah, it's a very interesting dynamic. But I think at the same time, just from a lesson perspective, and I want to go back to the work aspect of things, but how do you hold people in voluntary organizations accountable? Because the reality is, I had a meeting this weekend, the theme was showing up and breaking limiting beliefs, and it was more of a softer thing. Is like, you've got to keep showing up, irrespective of how you feel. And you may have had a hectic work day, you haven't written your speech, but just show up and do something, And if someone doesn't show up, then my club is crumbling. And how do you hold people accountable to make sure that they are delivering, they're not removing themselves from Exco and not showing up at club meetings?
So I think it is very difficult, and there's a number of ways to do things. But ultimately, what we want to be doing is creating a safe space where people feel valued, they feel seen, they feel heard, and they feel that they are congregating around some type of shared vision. So I think as well, we don't want people to be leaving, especially Toastmasters, but any voluntary organization. We can see the person is struggling in their role. We can honestly meet with the person, can call them up and see, how are you struggling? But people need to understand you have to put some work in because you're there to develop yourself. And ultimately, it's that specific action, whether it's talking, giving a speech, mentoring someone, coaching, attending the meetings, doing your job as a club officer that's going to lead you to that development. Because ultimately, what you can do at the end of the day, you can have some kind of majority decision of whatever exco it is to remove the person, but you don't necessarily want to be doing that. I mean, that's the final, kind of straw. But there are situations, where you might find a person resigns because of financial challenges. They can't pay the membership fees, or they have severe personal challenges. It is difficult, as in you can't, have this thing, I will fire you or suspend you, or you'll lose your salary. But I think the best we can do is to bring people with us on a journey and a vision. And I think we honestly have to focus more on that. That I think those of us that have been in, let's say, the Toastmasters system, maybe it's been 10 years or almost 10 years or more than 10 years, or, some people have been around decades, to understand from these people, why.
No, thanks for sharing that aspect. And I think you are a seasoned leader in Toastmasters, and I'm so privileged to know you. I mean, I'm no longer part of Woodlands, and I've attended Woodlands meetings and things like that. So sometimes I ask myself, out of all the clubs the district director is part of Woodlands and what makes that club, so amazing. And seeing leaders like you is So amazing. I just want to go back from a parliamentary aspect of things. This is just my curiosity, right? What role did you serve in Parliament again?
Okay, thank you. So in Parliament, I was on the committee overseeing the Auditor General.
Okay.
And I was on the Appropriations Committee, which Musi, my Mane now chairs. So appropriations, you actually move money between all government departments in the country. So I'd say it's pretty cool in the sense that you get to meet all the cabinet ministers and you get to engage with what's going on in their departments as well. And you also like an extension of the National Finance Committee. So before the budget comes out, you get to read the budget speech. You get to sit with the Minister of Finance. I met Tito Mboweni that way. You actually get to see the budget and the budget speech before the leader of your own party, because it's this closed session where you're sworn to secrecy, etc., before the budget speech happens.
Okay. So interesting. You're a person I need to have in the corner, so I can obviously find out what's happening in the world. We met a few weeks ago, or we interacted from a competition perspective. I just want to have an understanding. Have you competed in a Toastmasters competition? What parts have you taken part in competition contest?
It's actually a good question. So years ago, so mid-round groundbreakers, I don't know how many venues Kiyamo and friends found, but really you should have Kiyamo on here one day. So Kiyamo is the beating heart of mid-round groundbreakers.
Okay.
Like she has done things where that club didn't have members. I mean, it didn't have, the 20 members. Mm-hmm. Like in the space of, I think, I don't want to say 2 days. You can call it a week, but it was something like 2 days. Okay. So at some point we were at, some place just off of the highway towards Midrand, towards Olifantsfontein. I think it was General Electric.
Okay.
And I did actually compete in a contest there.
Okay.
But I think I've never really gone up to division contest and especially district and those things.
Okay.
I think with me, maybe there's more of a mentoring aspect, and I've been part of Mentors Without Borders, and I think I've taken up a variety of leadership roles. But I think to me, and now annually, I try to do something different in Toastmasters from some kind of coordination or leadership perspective, so that I'm always giving back to the organization, because I think it just gave so much to me.
So I'm hearing from a contest perspective, you feel that the part that gives you great value and the part that you incline towards is more from an evaluation and feedback perspective. And
I really enjoy that. I actually really enjoy in the club meetings evaluating speeches and being the grammarian. But you have to be prepared. Okay, if I come to your club and I'm the grammarian, whatever your time is for that, it's not going to work out. As in. When I'm the grammarian, I don't just evaluate the grammar. I look at kind of everything. I look at how the meeting went, and how you did speeches, and so I'll escalate that into 3 or 5. But you'll get value out of that. But it'll just be longer. That's all. So I apologize ahead of time.
Cool. So currently at this point in time, I just want to reflect. Are you in an exco role at this point in time?
Actually not. Yeah, I'm just the CFR champion for the district.
Okay, and I'm interested to know for you what the future plans are from a Toastmasters perspective in the next year or two. Are you looking to go into cabinet? Do you want to become a president again? What are you looking forward to? Plans?
Maybe it's slightly awkward. So I just try to find something I haven't done the year before, but to be giving back. So say I've been a team leader in Mentors Without Borders, but I haven't run the whole thing. I haven't been a corporate clubs coordinator for the district. I haven't been the district parliamentarian, which I could do because apart from being a lawyer with the masters. So there's all the things I haven't been besides admin, with this finance.
You haven't been, so you've only been admin manager, finance, PVP, the PR manager.
Yeah, and then eventually you get to a PQD and a club growth, and I think the only thing that scares me is the club growth director. That seems very scary.
So let's hone in on this. Actually, very interested to understand. What does club growth director actually do?
So my understanding, it's the person where the buck stops with them when it comes to how many clubs have been established.
Okay.
So I think there's been quite a huge proliferation of clubs where you have, maybe let's say Centurion. You can find multiple clubs within a very, very small area. So I think every year there's more and more pressure as to how do you do this? Where do you go? So you have to think quite creatively, to say, do you go to colleges and universities and you set up more and more corporates? But I think anyone watching this, you might be thinking also what happens with corporates. Corporates often have their own needs. So, I find Green Speakers is kick-ass. Anyone listening to this, like from Green Speakers, your club is amazing. Every person in that club, you're phenomenal. Like, you're perfect human beings, the most perfect Toastmasters, like ever. And you're so highly motivated and committed, right? But a lot of these corporate clubs, like we can take Deloitte. Deloitte just wanted Toastmasters for a specific period of time.
Okay.
So many of these corporates, they also don't survive for a long period. So it might not be sustainable either. Okay. So we can go now to some corporates, set up a club, and then we can find they're not really interested, maybe after 2 years or something. And then the club no longer exists. Then you have to make a plan to set up some other club just to keep your base. Okay, so from a district level, there's a whole thing about retaining the base and building on. But obviously, if you lose clubs, you have to build more and more and more, and there's set expectations every year. And we know here in Southern Africa, where it's 74, 129, we're quite focused on performing and showing off. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's just clear pressure that whoever's in such a position needs to obviously perform to the absolute maximum.
Okay, no, thanks for sharing that. You still haven't answered my question. So you've told me, yes, you look at different things that you want to do. So what is that new thing that you haven't done that you would like to do next term, let's say from June onwards, the next year? What is that unique thing that you want to do?
Okay. Yeah. So from talking to people behind the scenes, there are people that believe that I could be, the next corporate clubs coordinator for the district.
Okay.
There's people that believe in future I should be the district parliamentarian, which is also an interesting one because so it isn't a rule on paper, but in practice, that's been past district governors / directors have been doing that only, but I could do it practically. But I think for me, it's just about something that I haven't done before. So I could even be the head of Mentors Without Borders.
Okay.
But I think to me, it's just about adding maximum value wherever I can go. But I think, there's a caveat with that I might feel really bored if I was admin manager again, because I've done it, or division director again, or director again. So it's about finding something different. But I think maybe I've reached the stage where it's more about giving back. It's not so much what I can get, I'll get out of it.
Yeah, the giving back thing is a bug some people get. I came in because I wanted to learn how to speak, and now I'm seeing value in giving back. One of the previous podcast guests that I interviewed, Musa Nyamande, he wants to become a speaker, and he just realized that the toast, because he feels that he's very good at what he does and he's been able to monetize the speaking thing, but now he's realizing that no, there's something about this giving back. I never understood it until I went to conference, and so I got deeper and deeper, understood the plethora, if I'm using that word right, saying and pronouncing it well, of things that we can do from a Toastmasters perspective.
No, I was just thinking that I don't think any of us joined Toastmasters with this idea we're going to give back to anybody. Like, no, who was thinking that? Like, we just thought, like we're coming here to develop ourselves.
Yeah.
But somewhere, somehow, it's like, I don't know. Yeah, I think, but I guess Toastmasters touched us, touched our heart deeply to think, if this can impact my life, in such an incredible way, it's almost like I want to pass this on to other people.
Totally agree with that. Our time is slowly but surely coming to an end, right? So before we close, I'm very curious to understand the concept of managing time, because it seems as if there's a number of things that you are doing, including this. So for us who struggle to manage time, or for those who are trying to get into this and want to do a bit more, how do you manage your time, and how do you teach us to balance all the different aspects of our lives?
I think with me, I think I've become used to it as a lifestyle.
Okay.
But I actually, this might sound silly or whatever, but it's just how it is. So there's a person called Brian Tracy. Brian Tracy is one of the world's foremost motivational authors, and he says you can basically, the first step to achieving any goal is to write it down.
Okay.
And I keep a physical handheld diary.
Okay.
So say today, what time I was going to be here, I wrote that down. And I scratched this out after every day, whatever I was supposed to do. So I won't go to sleep if it wasn't done.
Okay.
No matter what time I would go to sleep, etc. It's like a serious to-do list. Like once you've written this thing down for that day, whether it's to apply for something, write someone a letter, see someone, have a meeting, contact someone, you can't go to bed at any point. Even if you saw this list at 7 a.m, you can't go to unless you've done everything on that particular list. But I think it's more of like a lifestyle choice, which might be difficult for people.
Okay.
But I think ever since COVID, a lot of things are online.
Okay.
But let's say tomorrow there's a meeting of an NPO at 7, but I'm also supposed to meet with a mentee at 7. So I'm going to choose the mentee. Yeah, I think it's just become a mindset somehow that I'm just always been involved in so many things, but I only get one salary from one place, which is work.
and that's a curious aspect in terms of obviously the balancing and the prioritization of things. So unfortunately, Michael, the light, I see that red light has hit us. So we're going to have to call a close on this interesting discussion that we've been having. And I'm very blessed and grateful that you've come to share your experience of Toastmasters from back in the day and working with tough people, tough environments, and seeing the evolution and taking up journeys. And obviously one of the key things that you've obviously fundamentally highlighted a lot that I got from this is the networking, the people that believe in you. For me, my journey is relatively new, and this podcast would not have happened without the backing of Brighton. Awesome. In terms of that. So
that's wonderful.
In order for us to grow, we need networks and relationships, and it's a holistic aspect of things. So I am so grateful and blessed that you have come here today. Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward for the episode to be aired. Please do not forget to click and subscribe. But Michael Shackleton, or DTM Michael Shackleton, thank you very much for honoring us with your presence today.
Thank you very much
and we'll chat soon again.
Thank you for everything.
Cool, thanks.